Alan Jones. A pretty interesting race this, because picking up from Bathurst, we've had a wonderful win to Bathurst from Tony Longhurst. I guess a bit of a surprise win with a new team.
Well, it's a new team, but a very experienced campaigner looks after Tony, and Frank Gardner. He's a very, very experienced and wily team manager indeed. These cars will be running different configurations than Bathurst, of course, in as far as they'll be using a lot higher boost and a lot more powerful engines.
All right, let's have a look at the grid positions, because it is interesting how they work out. Dickie Johnson in the Sierra is on the pole position in car number 17. Then Tony Longhurst, the man that Alan Jones has just been talking about. On row 2, John Bow in the other of the Dick Johnson cars. Then Larry Perkins in the first of the Holdens. Colin Bond in a Sierra. Grice in a Holden. Hulme in a Holden Fury. And Scaife both in the Nissan cars. Brock and Richards in the BMWs. And as you go down through the lower sections of the grid, there's some little cars there that get along. Those little Toyotas really move, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they race in a different class, as indeed the BMW of Brock and Richards do. I mean, they are in a different class. But of course, being on a tight, twisty street circuit such as this, they're an excellent handling car, and that sort of brings them into their own a little bit.
Well, 32 laps of this circuit, pretty demanding in this incredible heat here today. And let me tell you, it's very, very hot down there. And there is the Skyriders in action, saying hello, I'm told. Could have fooled me. Coming up onto the grid now, and this should be a marvellous start, because there's a fair bit of rivalry. Tony Longhurst is in your part of the world these days, Surfers Paradise, and of course Dick Johnson, the top banana bender.
Well, that's right, and they're also determined to prove who's got the best developed and quickest Sierra at the moment. I think Dick's obviously got the drop on that one. But it'll be interesting to see. Grice, I think, is up in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th or 6th position, so he always makes a bit of a flying start. So the first chicane will be very interesting, that's for sure.
Certainly will. See, Tony Longhurst is actually over the line on the grid there on the start line. It's a wonder they haven't taken him back. He's cribbed about a metre to Dickie Johnson. It's hard to pick up on that shot, but he's just front wheels are over that line. So everything now, the revs are starting to build up, just about ready for a start here. There's Longhurst, there's the car over the grid. Red lights are on, it's go. They're racing, Johnson away. Longhurst with a good start, right up the middle too. The first of the Holdens in Perkins as they head into that first chicane. Watch this. This could be interesting. Good line from all cars though. There's Grice, as you predicted, AJ, belting his way through, bumping and bouncing, but everybody through at the moment looking good. Johnson out in front, Longhurst running second.
Yeah, and John Doe having a good look up the inside of Larry Perkins. It'll be interesting to see the difference in horsepower between the Sierras and the Holdens. If Bale doesn't let himself get too far behind Perkins, by the time they get onto the rear straight, you'll be able to see just how quickly and easily a Sierra can pull out and pass a Holden.
Have you been disappointed in the performance of the new Holden after all of the build-up with the Tom Walkinshaw taking over the team and building the cars?
Not really, Darrell, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a matter of mathematics, and we all knew the weight of the Holden, and we knew what sort of horsepower approximately was going to put out, so it was a tall order for it to beat the Sierra.
Dick Johnson in front from Tony Longhurst, then Larry Perkins, then John Bowe, and then Alan Grice comes round in 4th spot. Here's a repeat of the start now. Let's have a look at this as they get off the line. Perkins really dived up the centre looking for a hole. It wasn't there. The Sierra's just closed up too fast. Dick Johnson really throws over the nice line. And then watch for Grice. Bang, there he is coming through. But it's Dickie Johnson, the top Queenslander, in car number 17, the Ford Sierra. The Ultra Shell car really doing it well at the moment and getting a little bit of a gap now on Longhurst. So where is Longhurst?
That's an amazing gap for a first lap. Actually, it looks like John Bowe has moved up into second place from here. So he's obviously given some of the Johnson horsepower a bit of let it have its head down the straight.
You were telling me over in the pits this morning, looking at the Formula One cars, that these Sierras really have the same sort of sophistication with the chips that fit in, the computer chips.
Oh, they do. I mean, they have telemetry. They can change their chips to alter the characteristics of the engine, just like the Formula One cars. You know, I mean, these things now are developing over 500 horsepower. They don't weigh a great deal. I mean, they weigh considerably lighter than the Holden. So here we go. That's Lusty, I think, that's off. He should have stuck with his Dunlops, as the ad says.
Another one too. Ellis is off. So already a few casualties. A 32-lap race. Great shot from the chopper. And the circuit certainly looks different when you look down on it, Alan. It's a marvellous circuit to go around in.
Well, I think it's the best street circuit in the world. It's the best organised. They've done a wonderful job with the layout. I think they're now going into that very difficult part of the circuit, Jones Straight, Darrell.
Johnson really flying now, and the cars get well, pretty tippy around there too. I can imagine you can see Grice there bouncing around in the background. They really are a handful. And we're only talking about those little things that we were driving the Nissan cars. When you think of the horsepower and the size of these, whole different ball game. They're really going very quickly. Another car there taking the escape road, heading off into the city.
Actually got some oil pouring out the right-hand side, so he's either clipped something, which has created that, or he's bent the engine. It's one of the little Toyotas, number 72.
72. Well,
you can see the Sierras now really sort of coming into their own. You know, the more straights that they can get into, the more they like it. There's just no way the Holdens can live with these cars. I mean, their power to weight ratio. Although Perkins is doing a good job staying up as close as he is, but I think that Longhurst might be playing it a little bit coolly. I think 32 laps around here, it's very hard on brakes, very hard on tyres. Maybe he's just hanging back a little bit, looking after those things, and so he'll have them left later on when he needs them.
Well, Larry Perkins certainly trying hard. You can see him using all the road there and getting the big Holden up in the air. That was Mike Oliver in the little Toyota that we call off in car 72, who was leaking the oil. But as we come back to Longhurst, he just seems to have a little bit of legs around the twisty parts to take out Perkins by just another car length. We'll see what happens when they get on the straight, because these Sierras, as Alan has said, are frightening fast. Do you think it's a good thing? I know that Holden's dominated racing in this country for a long time. Do you think it's a good thing that the Sierras are dominating when you think that you can't actually buy one, the average guy I'm talking about?
Well, I don't think it's a good thing if any make of car dominates for too long. People get sick of that. I suppose at the end of the day, the criteria is good racing. If we see a number of cars having really close, good racing, well, that's what it's all about. But it is good to have a few different makes up there having a go.
Well, Dick Johnson's had a lot of success. He's had 3 wins on this circuit. He really enjoys it.
Well, yes, he does. He goes very well here indeed. And, you know, Dick has got the fastest Sierra in the world, in my opinion. I mean, he took the car over to Silverstone a couple of months ago, put it on pole position against all the European cars, and was romping away until he had some very unfortunate little mechanical thing go wrong with it. But up until then, he had proved that his car, and with him behind it, is the fastest Sierra in the world, bar none.
You're also saying that he had a lot of help from the McLaren people as well.
Yes, he went, I believe, went to the McLaren factory and had a good talk to the boffins there about the electronics and these chips that we mentioned before. And I think that helped the car a hell of a lot.
Well, you've driven one. You drove the Colin Bond car, the Caltex car, at Bathurst into 3rd place and a good drive. I mean, what do they like to drive? Are they similar to an open wheeler with a... I know that probably sounds silly, but do they handle similar?
Well, they're a lot more like the car I like to drive. They're stiffer, they react a little bit quicker. In fact, they feel more like a sports saloon or a GT car rather than outright family saloon car. You drive a Holden. Oops, there we go.
Oh, and a big lose there as they come round. We'll just pick that up for you. Holland, is it?
I think, yet again, it's another little Toyota. They don't seem to be having a good time today.
Jumping up to enjoy at the moment, hitting the ripple strips. And it's pretty slippery out there. Okay, we'll take a break. Be back shortly with a Group A race here at the Grand Prix meeting of 88. Welcome back to our Group A touring race here at the Grand Prix meeting of 88. Let's go through the top 6 spots for you. Car 17 is Dick Johnson from Queensland. His teammate Bo is next in car 18, and Tony Longhurst in 25, Perkins in 10, Grice in 2, and Denny Hulme in car number 11, the former world champion of Formula 1. So, a bit of talent up front, Alan.
Yeah, and they look to be doing it easy too, Darrell. They don't seem to be driving 10 tenths. They look fairly comfortable, and when you're in that position, of course, a little bit later on when the tyres start going away or whatever, you can afford a little bit to back off a bit because you build up a bit of a cushion.
I believe your teammate Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra had a little trouble throughout the week.
Yes, he built up an engine which he thought was going to give him well over 500 horsepower, and unfortunately that only lasted about half of Thursday. So they went back to a lesser horsepower engine, which they thought would, if nothing else, would give them reliability. that's playing up, and I spoke to Colin last night, and he's having to run very low boost and very low revs, and you know, it's not the way to go motor racing, and I really don't know whether Colin will finish this race. He's way back, but he's out there having a go anyway.
Well, making a charge up the main straight now, we have a look at the mobile BMW team, Peter Brock. Now here we are, here's some information for you that's very interesting. This is the speed reading and the tacho reading for you. He's pulling 7,800 revs, he's in 6th gear. There's the speed readout. Coming down through the gears, you'll see him build up from low as 44, racing up through the 100-kilometre mark. Alan, this is amazing stuff.
It's fantastic, Darrell. I mean, in their pits, they've actually got a lot more than this. They've got temperature of the water, temperature of the oil pressure. It just gives them all the information they want to know. And, you know, of course, the revs and what gear he's in. It's fantastic stuff.
So there you are, you're driving around inside the car virtually with Peter Brock looking at that rev counter. That's what he's looking at as it spins up and down the dial. Changing gear now into 3rd, into 4th.
It gives you an idea just how many gear changes these guys do too around here.
Exactly. Holding 3rd now at 166 and still building. Just watch that little red dot as it moves up and down. We'll be doing that throughout the race, and you'll get an idea, as Alan said, how quickly they've got to use that gearbox to power the car up and down this fantastic strip of road in Adelaide.
The only problem with that, of course, Darrell, is if you miss a gear or over-rev it, they know about it straight away.
Tony Longhurst has dropped off a little. Perkins is still trying dreadfully hard as he throws the car around onto the straight area to build up speed again. Longhurst there is a good shot. You can see the 2 red Sierras of the Johnson team down in front of him, but Perkins starting to make some ground on Tony Longhurst now, and this could be interesting. The big Holden versus the very fast and nimble Sierra, side by side, and Longhurst has got a problem.
Looks like he's got a big problem, Darrell. Large belch of white smoke, always, yep, there it is, on a turbo car. There's normally the death knock with them. I'd say he's done a turbo or he's detonated for sure.
Well, a man who took Bathurst this year, his race is finished here in Adelaide. Pretty disappointing way to finish a season. As you said, he's a very promising young athlete, this fellow. He's a great water skier too, before he really got serious about his motor racing.
Yeah, I actually see him out on the water occasionally, and he's a very good skier indeed. And he's also extremely serious about his motor racing and approaches it very, very professional.
Current leaders are Dick Johnson and John Bowe, and Larry Perkins, Alan Grice and Denny Hulme. This is lap 8, 32-lap race. So now, who can possibly challenge the Johnson team? I mean, they seem to be doing it easy. Somebody's got to pull a bit of desperate stuff to even bridge that gap at the moment, I would think.
I think the only thing that's going to challenge them is bad luck today. I think you'll notice that also as the race progresses, the Holdens will probably slide around just a little bit more. Being a heavier car, they're harder on their tyres. This circuit is extremely hard on brakes and tyres, and being that much more heavier, you know, as the race progresses, they'll more and more heat, more and more wear into those tyres, and you'll see them sliding around more and more.
Well, if there's one man that'll pull some desperate stuff out, it'll be Alan Grice, you can bet your life. And there he is sitting just in the background there, the FAI car. This is Perkins and the lusty car that we've seen have a spin. The Larry Perkins has driven Formula One for the BMW team. Some years ago now has driven at Le Mans. Very experienced driver and a great engineer, isn't he?
Yes, he is. I mean, he's using a lot of road at the moment. He's using a lot of curbs, and that's not always a wise thing to do, because there he goes up on it again, yeah, and again. You know, after a while, the components can only take so much of that, and all you need to do is weaken a rose joint or something like that, and eventually something will let go if you keep subjecting it to that sort of treatment. Larry
Perkins very dedicated to his motor racing, and he's enjoyed driving overseas. We'll take a break, come back and talk about those drives in just a moment. Top 6 positions for you. Dick Johnson from Queensland in the Red Sierra on screen now. Car number 17 still leading from teammate John Bowe, then Larry Perkins, Alan Grice, Denny Hulme. Colin Bond now has moved up into the 6th spot in car number 4. That's the Caltex car, the one that, well, he's your teammate.
That's right. I think that, as I stated before, Colin's really driving for a finish. He's hasn't got too much faith in the engine. It's they're having to, not use too many revs. They've turned the boost down. But sometimes in the past that's proven to be not such a bad thing, because the old Sierras, whilst they go like rockets, they can all prove to be hand grenades and have a tendency to blow up every now and again. Whereas if you turn the boost down and perhaps use a little less revs, they will go obviously considerably longer, and he might just find himself, I think John Bowe's in trouble.
He's had a spin down coming onto the main straight area here, the grandstand start-finish area. So that'll even things up a little bit. Peter Brock was also making a challenge on Colin Bond. So John Bowe will be interesting to see now if he can power back and recapture his 2nd place. Spin coming onto the start line finish area. So cranking it up a little bit now is John Bowe. He won't be happy with that. He was sitting in a comfortable 2nd. A little loose. And here's Peter Brock really throwing the BMW around, the mobile BMW. In a moment we'll show you just how hot it is inside these cars. Incredibly hot over here in Adelaide, and down on the circuit, a lot of temperature. There you go. There's the, well, you might read that out, Alan. That's interesting.
Well, that gives you the, starting on the left, of course, gives you the temperature of the gearbox, the temperature of the diff, the amount of revs he's doing, water temperature, oil temperature, and I would say oil pressure, oil pressure it looks like on the right. But, of course, this is exactly the sort of information which is available to the Japanese back in Tokyo, actually, as the Grand Prix is being run. They can actually monitor what the Honda engines are doing in the back of the McLarens in Tokyo as they race here in Adelaide.
Amazing technology, isn't it? I mean, years ago we'd sit there and watch a car and a driver in action. Now you're virtually sitting in the car with him, looking at exactly the same information that's being fed to him.
Well, that's right. And, of course, talking of BMWs, what we're watching now, when the BMW technicians first started to get all this business organised, when they were testing with Nelson Piquet at Silverstone, they used to lock themselves in the back of a van, and they could see the old temperature going up and all things going wrong, and by the time they'd smash out the back of the van to run to the circuit to give him the inside, he'd be coming in with a great trail of oil behind him. Great little cars, these BMWs. They handle very well. Remembering that, of course, they are a class car in as far as that they're in a different class in terms of CC. Their regulations are such that they can run slightly different tyres and weight to the other cars because of the different class structure. But they do handle extremely well. They've got excellent gearboxes, and I believe they're real fun to drive.
Well, Peter Brock's been enjoying his drive, but of course he is a winner through and through, so he'd like to have another car. I think it's an outright contender. Alan Grice is into the pits, so that'll change the top 6 spots. So we're talking to you now. I'm looking at Grice, and it looks fairly terminal too. They're not racing around the car too much, so I'd say that's it for Alan Grice this afternoon.
And Colin Bond on the Caltex Sierra moves up another spot.
So maybe that old nail of an engine's going to last the distance. But Peter Brock, as I said, would like to have a winning car. The rumour is, of course, that he will go to Ford. He is already preparing a special vehicle for Ford as part of our competition with Nines Mobile Sport. So maybe that's the first of it.
Well, that's right. I mean, he does have another year to go with BMW contractually. Now, whether they can work that out between themselves or not, I don't really know. But I know Peter. He is a winner, and unfortunately in the BMW there is no substitute for horsepower, and he's not going to win outright in the BMW. And knowing Peter, I'm sure he'd like to get his backside into a car that's an outright winner.
Dick Johnson, he's the outright leader today, and perhaps the winner. Time will tell. We're on to lap 13 at the moment of this 32-lap race. Dick Johnson around Adelaide. There's Tony Longhurst. He had to withdraw with a big belch of bluey grey smoke that came out of his Sierra. Dick Johnson at the moment just hounding the pack as he throws a little Sierra around. He's doing it pretty easy, as Alan said. Not a lot of pressure on him, so he's just driving the car, make sure that everything's right, and finish this race where he has a great record of winning here in this particular race.
It'll be interesting to see John Bowe come up onto Perkins in a very short time, and just watch the difference in power as he goes past the Hulme.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at that chase. Nice to have your company here in Adelaide this afternoon as we bring you live the Group A race from the Grand Prix meeting. Dick Johnson in car 17 is out in front. Larry Perkins in car 10 has now moved up into second spot. Denny Hulme, his teammate, is in third spot. John Bowe fighting his way back after a spin. Colin Bond is fourth, and Peter Brock now in the top 6. So things starting to move, but Patrick Lindsay at the moment is with Alan Grice in the pits.
Thanks, Darrell. Alan, wearing that Vancouver is not the right thing to be doing at the moment. What happened?
Well, it is the right thing. Keep the sun off you. Brake fourth gear, which is a little disappointing always, but in this case the temperature is very hot. I was reduced revs, kept the revs down to have a good water temperature. After brakes and tyres, and really the car was running very well. I was certainly ready to have a charge once a few more of them have heat problems, as you can hear they're having. But going down the straight already in fourth gear and pulling, the gearbox suddenly broke fourth gear. I then had a look through the box to see what was left. The only thing that was left was fifth. Don't think it would have been terribly good in fifth around here.
Bad luck, mate. Back to the action.
Thank you, Pat. Well, bad luck for Alan Grice. He hasn't had a lot of luck at this circuit. Reports we have coming back from our men down in the pits that Johnson's car is backfiring and sounding quite different as coming past.
Well, that with a turbo car, it might be an exhaust or something like that. It looks to be going approximately the same sort of speed, but with the turbo car, you can never really tell. I mean, he might have just, dare I say, turned the boost down.
The big Holden of Larry Perkins now running in the top 3, second place. So Larry's just consistently sitting there, doing the best job he can in the big Commodore.
You can see Bowe is just about to pounce on Denny Hulme any moment, so with a bit of luck we might, as I say, get to have a look at that speed difference between those two vehicles.
Whilst we're away, the lead changed here as Larry Perkins, coming onto the racecourse area of this track, came up here to take the lead with some good driving here. Alan, obviously the Sierras of the Johnson team both having problems.
Well, last year they did have fuel pickup problems, but you would have thought they would have learnt their mistake. The way the Holden just pulled out and passed like that out of the corner, no way should that happen normally. I reckon that he's got some fuel pickup problems because it seems to be going reasonably well in the straight, but then it cocks and splutters a bit coming out of the corners. So I think he's in some sort of trouble. It now remains to be seen whether John Bowe can come up.
Well, top 10 now, really changing around. Larry Perkins and Denny Hulme, the two Holdens now first and second. Dick Johnson is back in third. John Bowe is fourth. Peter Brock is fifth. Colin Bond, he's running in the sixth spot. So a great result for the Commodore team. They would be absolutely ecstatic over this. They've been having all sorts of teething problems as the boards go out there now, and you can see it, Perkins first and second, and look at those times.
Well, interestingly enough, just to see Denny Hulme did a lap time 0.2 of a second quicker than Perkins, a 47.4 as opposed to a 47.6. So Denny's really going for it. It'd be interesting to see if there's any team orders when it gets down to the wire.
Well, Dick Johnson coming into the pits now. Well, he'll be very, very disappointed. As we were saying, he's looking like he was doing it so easy, but that's motor racing, isn't it?
Well, that's right. You've never won until you cross the line.
The bonnet's up on the car, and a fair bit of activity, but it'll be very hard for him to get back and be competitive now. But look at the Holdens as they come through, and there are those times again for you. 47.6 for Perkins and 47.4.
Well, of course, the Holdens went extremely well at Wellington, which once again is a street circuit. Win Percy in the car which Alan Grice is driving today, he had a very, very comfortable lead, and he was showing everybody a clean set of heels, but once again fell foul to some mechanical problems. So it would appear that on the tight, twisty circuits, the Holdens aren't too bad off at all, because of course, having a normally aspirated engine and a V8, they've got a lot of torque, which is a great deal of help out of the slow corners.
Dick Johnson back on the track again after a quick check in the pits, so back in the fray. Let's see if he'll make one of his famous charges with about 12 laps to go in this race. Peter Brock in the BMW, and he's doing the best he can with the horsepower that he's got. A little BMW all tweaked up, running in 4th spot, so it's a great effort, really.
See, Johnson appeared to go very slow through those corners then. He was very close to Peter, but then see, as he came out of the corners, the car stuttered and he dropped back quite considerably.
We ride again with Peter Brock as we give you the information from the dashboard of his car. Back into 1st gear, now into 2nd. Look at that.
Doing very quick gear changes there.
Speedo reading for you. And that's the rev counter working on the right-hand side of your screen, flicking up and down as he uses the gearbox of this little BMW, the Mabel car 05, that very famous racing number. And there's very little in this country that Peter Brock hasn't achieved. Went to Le Mans a few years ago and drove a Porsche for Bob Jane with Larry Perkins then, both together.
I wouldn't be taking a great deal of notice of that gearbox indicator at the moment. It's all over the place. He's going from 1st to... I don't think Peter's the sort of driver that goes from 1st to 6th or 6th to whatever. It seems to be playing up a little bit, I think. So I think we just concentrate on the tacho.
Peter Brock. Peter Perfect, of course, as he's known in the trade. The Bathurst King, but now we're back with the 2 Holdens, and Denny Hulme now coming up at the end of the straight. Under brakes, just tucks in behind Larry Perkins. These are the 2 Tom Walkinshaw cars, now prepared, of course, by the Holden dealer teams. Supported a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of technology has gone into these vehicles, built in England under the leadership of Tom Walkinshaw, who, of course, captured Le Mans this year in the Jaguar. And this will be their best result since the team has been formed. But Denny Hulme, an amazing man. He, of course, was the world champion driving for Jack Brabham. But a man that, well, he's not getting any younger, but he's not getting much slower either.
He's not, no. I mean, Denny is in his early 50s. He went over to England and won the TT at Silverstone a couple of years ago in a Rover. Very much enjoys his racing. You know, does it really just to get out of the house on the weekend, so to speak, but thoroughly enjoys it, and, you know, when it really comes down to it, is able to put the times in when required, as we can see here. I mean, this is going to be very interesting indeed to see if there are any orders within the team.
Used to be known as the Bear around Europe, but I noticed the other day in the pits he's lost considerable weight there.
I think that was more to do with his mental attitude rather than his physical. He was a pretty straight talker when he was in Formula One.
I have interviewed him, you're right. There they are, the 2 big Commodores now as they come down to the straight, and it'll be interesting, as Alan has said, if Larry is to win this and Denny is just to protect his rear now.
I'm surprised that Bow hasn't actually come up a little bit quicker than what he has. I mean, I can only presume he's in the same sort of trouble as Dick.
Once again, Denny Hulme having a little look.
He's got him, I think. He's definitely got him.
So there you go, Denny Hulme now, the former world champion, is now in front of teammate Larry Perkins, and Larry coming back for another go, so there's no team orders, obviously.
Well, no, unless they're just having a little bit of a fun now up until the last couple of laps. But thank God for the Holdens. They're making a race of it.
Well, it's good to see the team having success too. They've put a lot of time and effort into it, and in this country, a motor race wouldn't be a motor race without a Holden somewhere.
Well, that's true, and normally these two are sharing the one car, as they did in Bathurst and Wellington and Pukekohe. They've had a number of seconds, but they've been the bridesmaid up until now, so this will be a wonderful result for them.
Denny Hulme, the New Zealander now out in front. Larry Perkins have both driven Formula One. As I said, Hulme, a former world champion. So a lot of experience in both of these cars. Here's John Bow now as he comes in at car 18. He's in 3rd spot, so he is working his way up. Can he make a charge, Alan? Has he got enough laps?
Well, what have we got? About 8 laps to go. But see, that car there coming out of the corner almost came to a stop. So I'm sure he's got fuel pickup problems as well, and it's belching a bit too many flames out of the exhaust to be normal.
Well, this is terribly bad luck for Peter Brock.
Fierce competitor, this fellow, though. If he thinks he's got a chance, he'll certainly push it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, John's a great driver, and he comes up through the ranks of open wheeler racing and a great competitor, and you know, if there was any way at all, he'd certainly have a go. But I've got a sneaking suspicion he's got the same problems as what Dick had.
Well, Larry Perkins then went out and had a little look, decided to tuck him behind Denny Hulme. So at the moment, pretty close stuff from the two Holdens.
Peter Brock has been into the pits as well, so I think they're all having a bit of problems today, except the two Holdens. They seem to be running like clockwork.
Strangely enough, too, you would have thought, being the bigger and the heavier cars, they would have suffered from the heat problems more so than the lighter, more nimble cars, but that's not been the case.
No, well, I mean, obviously, I think that if they would have been pushed, really pushed, it shows the tyres going off, but they're coming up literally to lap Dick Johnson now by the look of it.
Well, I'm surrounded by world champions. I've got one sitting beside me, a former one. I've got a motorcycle world champion over in the pits, Barry SHEENE.
Yeah, Darrell, apparently I've just spoken to Neil Lowe, who's Dick's team manager, and it is definitely a fuel pickup problem. It's missing on right-hand corners, and that's all they can put it down to. And one thing's for sure, they can't fix it at the moment.
Thanks, Barry. Well, Alan Jones was exactly right with his thoughts on that car. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly for the closing stages of this, the Group A race. Welcome back to the closing stages of this, the Group A race, and Larry Perkins has taken Denny Hulme just as we came back. So you saw that live action here through the 9 cameras, and these two are really having a dogfight out there. So Larry Perkins is making a charge now, and Alan, you were just saying it looked like that the Denny Hulme car had more power.
Yeah, it looks like Denny's car's got a little bit more grunt up the straight. But by the way, Larry's pulled out that gap in just that short distance. So I don't know whether Denny's experiencing some problems now. Bowers is almost stopping coming out of right corners, which would suggest that he's obviously got a fuel surge problem or an evaporation problem as well. And in fact, I think Colin Bond has overtaken Bow and moved up another place. So I think if old Colin sticks in there long enough, he could be up on the rostrum in 3rd place.
He'll be delighted, considering he didn't think he was going to finish.
Exactly.
The two Holdens out in front. It's now Larry Perkins in the lead with Denny Hulme running 2nd.
Larry's pulled out quite a gap in that one lap, so he was either foxing before and having a bit of a game with Denny, which I think might have been the case, or Denny's running into a few problems himself.
6 laps to go in this race that was 32 laps in distance, a total of 120.93 kilometres around this wonderful, wonderful street circuit here in Adelaide. As Alan Jones has said, perhaps the best in the world. Well, not perhaps, it is the best in the world. And this big crowd here today really thoroughly entertained with some marvellous motor racing. They haven't worried about the heat. It's been hot out in the track and it's just been fantastic. We've seen some great racing here, and of course tomorrow it all happens again when we see the big one. But right now, Denny Hulme winding up the wick a little bit as Larry Perkins still in front.
I see Colin is in 3rd place at the moment, so let's hope he can stay there.
Peter Brock also closing up. He's in 5th at the moment, so there's a little bit happening out there still to keep our interest here as the big cars start to pass us down on the grandstand and pit straight. John Bowe holding out now Peter Brock. We'll see if we can pick up some action there as we see them come onto the circuit. So there's a really good battle going on now in the top 6. Perkins is in front in the big Holdens. Here we go. Denny Hulme sitting in behind him. He did have the lead there for a little while. Perkins then came back, so perhaps the team orders that Alan Jones talked about. There's a possibility that Perkins, being the lead driver and the developer in Australia of these cars, is the one that should be taking the checkered flag. Brock has now taken John Bowe, so Bowe really having some problems with the car on the right-hand corners, and Peter Brock fighting his way up through the field in a little BMW, doing a pretty good job as Larry Perkins and Denny Hulme doing a 1-2 for Holden. And by gee, it's been a long time since we've seen that.
It's good to see, Darrell, isn't it? I mean, I get sick. I'm sure everyone does. I've seen the same make of car win all the time, and it makes a refreshing change to have another marque up there.
Well, of course, you've got to think, too, when the factories pour this amount of money, enormous amounts of money to develop these cars, if they don't have the success, well, obviously they're not going to continue with it. So the more money that's poured into these cars, the more competitive fields we have.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see the pit row at the moment. Looks like a car park at a major shopping centre. I mean, I'd say at least half the field are out.
As we look at Peter Brock, we'll come back with the last laps of this Group A race from the Adelaide 88 meeting. Cars now on lap 30 of this 32-lap race. Larry Perkins, Denny Hulme are doing it well for Holden. Colin Bond is in third. Peter Brock is off the planet at the moment. He is using the entire track to try and grab that third spot.
Well, he looks like he's enjoying himself. He obviously realises he's got no chance whatsoever of winning, but he's out there giving it everything.
He's been coming around corners, Alan, totally sideways and just using the ripple strips and just bumping the car back on line again. And it's been good stuff from Peter Brock. He always entertains the crowd whenever he gets in a car.
Well, he always tries, and that's, you know, any team manager, that's all you can ask of any driver is to keep trying.
Larry Perkins has been trying for a win in the Holden, and he's going to get it today unless something remarkably strange happens. Winding his way down through the field now, and that looks like...
Oh, I see why Brocky was trying so hard now. I think he just didn't want to have the acrimony of being lapped. I think there's Colin in the Petch Sierras, and I think if he can just keep it going, he'll be up there on the rostrum with him in third place, which would be a wonderful result for him.
We talk about great drivers. I mean, Colin Bond has been around for so long and has driven so many different types of cars. You know, he's one of the great survivors of motorsport.
He is indeed, and terrific bloke to share a car with, because nothing's too much trouble. He's always got a wonderful sense of humour, and of course, not detracting from the fact that he's a very good touring car driver.
Peter Pan. I mean, he never looks any older.
That's right. I think it must be he's always laughing.
Okay. And there's Peter Brock. Well, has he got a problem now? He's just getting out of the way.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and a little bit of wheel lifting now as Perkins is really turning up the wick.
I think that Denny Hulme probably thought that Peter held him up a little bit then and ruined any chances he may have had to make it a race right to the wire.
Well, Larry Perkins is making it a race of it because he's really got the foot and the boot right into the firewall now with the Holden. The lusty car throwing a little bit. Watch this. Bang, up she goes. And I would think that would be quite hairy.
Well, actually, it's not as bad in the car as what it looks from the outside. What he's done is he's put a wheel up on the curb and it's just unsettled it for a split second. But, you know, it's not that bad in the car, really.
Colin Bond having some problems, and you predicted it, but not at this end of the race, surely.
Well, that's a real shame, because if you have something like that happen to you, it's best to have it happen in the first 5 laps, not the last 2.
Well, Colin Bond, what a tragedy, having all sorts of problems as he came past us, the car just crawling along the straight. But here's Perkins now. Last lap for Larry Perkins. The big Commodore thunders past. Denny Hulme around about 60 metres in behind him as they go on for their last lap. Peter Brock, the little BMW, screams down the straight too. So he's up into the third spot. And that's a great drive from Peter Brock. We'll just check on Brock if he is actually in third spot or not. He's in fourth spot.
No, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, this is the last lap, and if Colin can just keep it rolling, I think he might grab third. It'll be very close.
Okay, so my apologies there. Peter Brock, all exciting, the little BMW coming past, is actually sitting in fourth spot. He's chasing the ailing Colin Bond. There's the Johnson Sierra has pulled over of John Bowe. This is Larry Perkins. Really with a wound up, giving some signals. He's calling up Denny Hulme, I would think.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to go for the old 1-2 over the line, side-by-side job.
And Denny Hulme is signalling too. He's got the hand out, so they're going to obviously do a 1-2 finish. It's a little Nissan Skyline there of George Fury. We haven't seen much of them in this telecast. They've been disappointing this year. Larry Perkins just slowing down, waiting for Denny Hulme to get up there. George Fury just tucking in behind him. I don't think they're going to be able to do it somehow. Denny Hulme too far back. So Larry Perkins will take the Walkinshaw team to their first victory in Group A racing here in Australia. And here's Colin Bond.
Colin's being very cunning here, because if he allows Larry to lap him, he won't have to do the extra lap, you see?
Yeah.
And there he goes.
So there you go. So he will retain third spot, and that's a great result for him. Denny Hulme will take second in the second of the Walkinshaw cars. And Larry Perkins would be over the moon with that win. There's not too many people more dedicated to their racing than that fellow. And here's Peter Brock. He'll finish in fourth spot with another gutsy drive in the BMW.
Well, it's a wonderful result, that is for sure. I mean, I'm sure the old general will be jumping up and down for joy this afternoon, because it's a prestigious race to win, and to have the 1-2 finish like that is a great result indeed.
Well, I said that there's not too many people in motorsport more dedicated than Larry Perkins. A lot of people say he runs on a short fuse, but it's just that he's so motivated, isn't it?
Well, he does. I mean, basically, the guy lives, eats and breathes motorsport. He dedicates a lot of time and effort to it. He is a very good engineer, and I think that the fruits of his time and effort that he's put in has paid off today, and congratulations to him.
He's also had a lot of bad luck too. At Bathurst last year, he was taken out earlier. The cars didn't sort of function as well as they should have this year, so it's a long time between drinks for Larry Perkins, and it's a fair reward.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good reward for him, and a great result for Denny Hulme as well.
So congratulations to the Holden dealers, because they would be over the moon too over that, because they've been waiting for a long time. And there's a picture tells every story. John Bowe standing out on the track with the car, was looking very safe in second spot behind team leader Dick Johnson. Both cars went out. He fought the problem for the entire race. It's a fuel surge problem. Alan Jones picked that. That was confirmed by Barry SHEENE over in the pits. He fought with it till finally it got the better of him. Just a couple of laps to go, had to pull out. But rewards today to Holden, to Larry Perkins, Denny Hulme, the tough New Zealander. We'll come back shortly. We'll go to Ken Sutcliffe now. That's what we'll do. He's in the other studio. Ken, that was a wonderful win for Holden.
Certainly was. It's been a pretty lean year, actually, for the General. They've been following up the Sierras all through the big races, but that's a good one for today.